Hello and welcome to my mainline infrastructure video. We're going to talk about the shortcomings of the mainline third track project, the problems that persist with the old poles that we're dealing with here. Here are some pictures of some of the old poles I've taken along the main line. These poles aren't being replaced yet, which is really an outrage. These things are just ancient and carry a really important power line. And then we're going to talk about how the water on the tracks causes signal problems. And also the Babylon line getting more new poles, so they get the best infrastructure. Yeah, they're getting more. They're getting new poles. We're not. They're getting the best infrastructure. Their poles are straight and not crooked like ours. Their stations are being built properly, and we're going to get into it in this video. So in this first part of the video, we're going to look at the main line, and we are going to I'm going to show you the areas where problems are and why I believe the problems are. And in a lot of these cases, the third track project will address these problems. And I guess we'll work our way from west to east. And the first part of the mainline infrastructure that is a big problem is Belmont Park. And I've talked about this very briefly, but I'll talk about it again. This whole layout here with Belmont Park is absolutely ridiculous. This Belmont Park station, which they rebuilt, was a huge waste of money because they put in a new station here. You can see it right here on the satellite view. But what they haven't replaced, the tracks, still very old tracks here, and the substation, which this substation here is a big problem. I believe where is it? Let me try to find it. This is it right here, this substation. I can't really get a view of it for you, but this substation here has a limited, basically what it is when they're running service to Belmont, they cannot run too many trains in and out of Belmont, and the speeds are restricted because of this old substation here. The substation does need to be replaced, and they want to redevelop Belmont into, they want to put an Islanders arena here, and that's all good, but this current setup here is gotta go. This is the first part of the main line that's gotta go. I've spoken about this before, and I'll show you again what I would do here is this whole thing here, a new station needs to be built right along the main line, right here, a brand new station for Belmont, alright? And you would have a walkway that goes from this station to where the old station was. And people will be like, well, it's too long of a walk. It's not that long of a walk, alright? It's quicker. The speed at which the trains move through this tight curve is like 5 or 10 miles an hour. It's quicker to walk, at that point, alright? And let me measure the distance here. We're going to measure it right here. The distance between the main line and the tracks at Belmont, the existing platform, is only 1,400 and it's about 1,409 feet, which is not very much. It's not very much at all. Maybe a quarter of a mile or half of a mile. Very little. Alright, it's not even a mile. And you also have to remember that a lot of the new development, I think it's going to go on this side here. I think. So a lot of it's going to go on this side. So a lot of it's going to go on this side, I believe, because I see them doing work already. So the station over here would actually be closer than the station over here. So yeah, this was a huge waste of money, this station, and it was a huge waste of money. That was Patrick Norkowski's fault. That was a huge blunder, wasting all the money on this new station, which is a complete waste of money because it's not going to be sufficient, and it's going to complicate things when these trains have to switch over every time and screw up the main line. Every time they run service to Belmont, these trains are switching over and causing problems. This all needs to be torn up. All of this. This whole track needs to be torn up, and the station needs to be torn up, and they just need to make a... Maybe what you can do with the station is you can have like a little people mover type of system, or have it separated somehow. Have like a thing that goes back and forth. But this needs to be torn up completely. This has got to go. Alright, I don't want to waste too much time on that. Let's work our way east and talk about the next problems that occur. Often problem area on the main line. And we're going past Floral Park, which is a station that is a disgusting station. We'll take a look at that station right now. Because it is elevated. That's the good news. It is elevated, and I like that it's elevated. Because I support that kind of design. But the problem with the station, it needs to be completely redone. It needs. Why is Lynbrook getting its complete renovation when Floral Park doesn't even have an elevator? And this station is falling. This is one of the worst stations on the entire Long Island Railroad. And the mainline trains don't even stop here, even though they have platforms to the main line. They don't usually stop here. Just a few trains that do. This station is horrible. It needs a complete redo. Complete redo, as far as I'm concerned. It should look like Wantor. All right? It should look like Wantor or Belmore. And I would add service to Floral Park. I would have more mainline trains stopping here. Because people who live in Floral Park can't go east. They'd have to go west back to Jamaica to go east, which is just ridiculous. It's pointless for the reverse commuting. So we know the third track is going to go in over here. All right? We're going to look at the diagrams here in a minute. I'm not necessarily crazy about that idea. All right? Because now what's going to happen is you're going to have mainline trains coming down because they're building, what they're doing is they're building a new ramp right from here onto the main line. And the problem with that is now you're going to have to sacrifice some capacity on the Hempstead line to do that. That is a big problem again. There's a lot of crossing over. We're going to talk about some major blunders that I feel that the Long Island Railroad is doing with this third track project. All right? And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that this should have been done differently. It should have been done differently. And but I guess maybe they feel the constraints of space don't allow it to be done differently. This is not the worst part of the third track project. There's a worse part of it when it comes to the switching in Mineola, which I'll explain to you. So we always have signal problems in New Hyde Park. This is a big problem for New Hyde Park. And we're going to look at New Hyde Park right now and the problem with New Hyde Park. Now, right now, Covert Avenue, they are building an underpass for Covert Avenue. So that's this street right here. They're currently building an underpass, I should say, because Covert Avenue. This is all gone already. This has all been torn up. They're building. They're digging out, and they're making some really nice progress over here on this project. They're digging out the roadbed underneath Covert. But here's the thing: this is more complicated. In my opinion, I think it would be better to elevate the tracks up. And have an elevated station here. Again, I would have designed this main line to be more like the Babylon line. All right, it would have cost more, but it would have been done right. What they're trying to do is do it as cheaply as possible, instead of doing it right, and that's my concern. When we look at I'll show you when we look at the way it's going to look in here in the future with Covert Avenue as we go to the site. These old wood poles. These are power feeders for this substation right here. So the main line doesn't even have its own dedicated. These power feeders come from a substation that's far away, all the way I think on the South Shore. I think Valley Stream or something like that. These old wood poles, they date back to who knows how long, and they need to be replaced with metal. And the main line needs this dedicated power infrastructure like the Babylon branch. That means big metal poles, not this stuff. This stuff is not going to survive a big storm. No, you should have big metal poles. And this old infrastructure is the reason why you have signal problems here. And like I said, this is going to be redone. The track's going to be redone. But what about these poles? What about the substation here? Is this substation going to be replaced? I think it is. And this is the substation that got damaged by the lightning strike, by the way, that we had. Look at the condition of the substation. Look at the condition. Look at that. Look at that. It's not being kept up at all. This was taken in July 2018, so this was taken before the lightning strike, I think, happened. And look at the bad shape it's in. The lightning probably struck because the lightning detection wasn't kept up properly. Lightning should never be able to strike a substation, but this whole substation needs a complete redo. All right, and these poles need to be replaced with metal poles. All right, and these tracks need to be elevated above the grade because when they're at grade like this. Because the tracks are not elevated, water ponds on the tracks, and we all know water and electricity doesn't mix. So as we go closer to the substation, to the New Hyde Park station, you will see what I'm talking about. So let's go and take a look. All right. So this is taken in November 2018. So this is the grade crossing. These are the tracks here. All right. Now, these grade crossings will be eliminated, but the signal problems that are ongoing in this area probably have to do with the fact that these electronics here have been damaged to the lightning strike, and also because they are grade level. And again, I'm not sure. I think this street is just going to be closed, this grade crossing here. But when they do the work. But the station, as you'll see, will not be an elevated station. It will be very much in the same location. And again, when you have the tracks at grade level, you're going to have susceptibility to problems. The Babylon line is all elevated, and whereas the main line is not, and it still won't be even after this project is done. All right, so what do I want to see here in New Hyde Park? I want to see, and if I were to design this, again, I don't have the graphics program to draw this up, but I want this to look like the Babylon line, and you know what the Babylon line looks like. I'll show you again in the video what it looks like. All right, that's what I want. This is also going to be, I believe, an underpass when they get started with this. So they're doing the easy, cheap way out. Now, people will be like, well, how are you going to, when they built the Babylon line, basically, they had to build temporary tracks next to the existing tracks when they did the work. So how would you elevate this while this is going on? And that is a good question. That is a good question. However, there is a parking lot next to this area where they could build an elevated structure and then kind of put it in place over a weekend or so. I think it should have been elevated. I'm just saying they're taking the cheap way out. Yes, it would mean they would have to buy more land. They would have to buy more land to do it, and they would be more eminent domain taking. But you know what? Like I said, you need to do it right. All right. And my concern is it's not going to be done right. So we know we have the old poles, the old substations. Like I said, this all needs to be metal. This all needs to be metal. All right. We work our way east toward Maryland Avenue. All right. The same thing here. Now, at least the tracks are basically grade level. This bridge here is going to be redone, the Nassau Boulevard Bridge. It's going to be replaced with a bridge that can accommodate 3 tracks as well as a higher bridge. Right now, this bridge is very low, and trucks hit it a lot and cause problems. Here comes a train going by right now. I agree with that, but again, the problem is it's not elevated up enough. But in this spot, I feel it is elevated up a little bit more, so it's not subject to the problems. And again, you got these poles here. Looks like some of them have been replaced again, so these poles don't look like they need replacement, but again, main line, we have a lot of old poles here, you know, and so we go over here. You can see already there's a third track that was built a while ago in anticipation of the third track project. This part is okay. This part doesn't need anything, but then we get to Mineola, and Mineola obviously is a problem. The infrastructure is very old in Mineola, and the design of the station itself, I'm going to get into it because right now when I go over the way it's going to be laid out, this is the way the tracks are laid out right now. This is the infamous switch in Mineola that has a lot of problems, and the reason why this switch has a lot of problems is because of several factors. All right, this is a grade level area, as you see right here, grade level. So you have the water getting in to this switch, and the switch is located over a grade crossing. So the actual switch is located over a grade crossing. Cars are driving over it. So it not only does it have to deal with the trains passing through, but it also has to deal with the cars driving over it. And you can see how beaten this switch is. It's really a wonder that it works at all, considering how bad this is. And yes, it will be replaced. You can see some track workers right there doing something right now. But again, the problem with the new Mineola station is this is all still going to be at grade. All they're doing here is they're just going to close this street off, and they're going to put an overpass in for people to cross over. But this street's getting closed off completely. And again, with the wooden poles again. And here's the substation. I think that substation will be replaced. But again, this is a major station, Mineola, and it really deserves better. And This is terrible. I personally think this grade crossing should have been closed already because having the cars driving over this is just, you can see, look at the holes here. This is what I mean when they don't keep up the infrastructure on the main line. This is exactly what I mean. And we know Mineola is, heavily built up, and, elevating this would be very difficult, obviously. But it still could be done. It could still be done over a weekend or two. They would just have to, literally, we have the capability of tearing up the tracks and reinstalling new platforms and we could do it in over a weekend or two. We could do it. Yeah, I believe we could do it. All right. And maybe it would take 1 week of having the service on the main line completely shut down. But it could be done. And like I said, I'd rather have it done right. You could have shuttle buses in place. You could have all that to elevate this stuff properly. All right. Like I said, I don't think the Mineola station needs to be elevated really that much. Just a little bit at this point would be needed. Just a little bit of elevation, not much. Maybe the station itself, like I said, I'm just throwing ideas out there. But I think the track bed needs to be a little higher because of the flooding problem that we've spoken about. There's two areas that flood a lot, particularly this Willis Avenue crossing here. There's always flooding in this area. Now they're going to do the same thing here. They're going to build an underpass over here. So the same thing, an underpass is going to be built, I believe, over here as well. And they're going with the underpasses instead of the overpasses. All right, so they're going to just dig out underneath like what they're doing at Urban Avenue. But the level of these tracks, being at ground level, is a big problem because, again, as I've said before, being at ground level means that the water isn't going to run off. The water is going to get into these electronics here, and that's a big cause of the signal problems because we know water and electricity doesn't mix, and it doesn't happen on the Babylon branch because the Babylon branch is completely elevated. So we're going to head east now. Roslyn Road's already got a new bridge with room for the third track. We head east in toward Carl Place. And there are going to be other challenges here in this area here that will have to be dealt with, such as this bridge replacement here with Glen Cove Road, because that's only 2 tracks. They're going to need to replace that, and this is a busy road, so when they shut that down over a weekend, that's going to be a big deal. And then Meadowbrook Parkway too. And again, it is elevated here. In this spot, actually, the tracks are above. If you look here, you'll see the tracks are above grade, which is good. So that's good. See, they're up above grade. That's what you want. So the water runs off away from the tracks, because the water gets into the tracks and causes the track circuits to fail. The track circuits are, little wires between the tracks that control the signals, and that's what causes the signal problems. So that's why the water on the tracks is a very bad idea. And and again, it is elevated through Carl Place. This is all raised up a little higher, including the Carl Place station, which is good. This is good. The poles are a big problem, as I've spoken about before. These old poles here need to be replaced, and the lack of urgency from PSEG, maybe not so much the railroad's fault. I mean, they've been working on this now for a while, the station. This is all gone over here. This bridge has been replaced. But the old poles are still here. Why hasn't PSEG come and replaced these old poles? They should have been replaced already. This circuit here is this should be metal. We should have the steel poles like the Babylon line have. All right? This is a very important. On the top here, this 67 kV circuit here is your power for the communities of Carl Place, Westbury, and Hicksville, and parts of Mineola. All right? So if this breaks, this old pole breaks, not only do you have a big problem on the main line with the service being down, but you also have a blackout in the area as well, and probably no third rail power because that also carries the third rail power. So a big problem is those poles, and I've spoken about that a lot. So we head east onto the main line. Again, 3 tracks. As far as the design of these stations, both Carl Place and Westbury, from what I've seen, it does look good. Don't really have an issue with the design of them. And again, the tracks in Westbury are also elevated up higher I'm not going to show it here in the street view, but they are elevated up higher. And there'll be 3 tracks. There's going to be new parking garages going up over here for more capacity, which is good. And then we come to the next grade crossing here, which is School Street. And this grade crossing, as you know, is where the horrible, tragic accident happened earlier this year, where somebody was running the gates and they got hit by a train and smashed it. It was a horrible thing that happened. And I still don't feel the railroad has done enough in the meantime to stop it, because it's just way too easy to drive around these gates. And they should be putting up barriers, but again, it's not being done. It's neglect, because they know they're getting rid of it, so they don't want to make any improvements in the meantime. And again, you have a lot of these old poles. Some of them have been replaced. That one's been replaced. But a lot of these have not been replaced. And then, of course, it goes back to grade level again, where I feel, again, the tracks need to be raised a little bit above grade so the water can run off. Look, this is a big problem, because the tracks are literally flat on the ground. And let me explain something. You see that? That's a track circuit right there. And the water gets into this, again, because it's not running off when it rains. And again, we're having more rain due to climate change, so this is a bad design. You've got to raise the tracks up. Well, they're not doing that, and that's why you have the signal problems. That's the reason why you have the signal problems on the main line, and you don't have them on the Babylon line. It's because of that design, of not having the tracks above grade. That's a big problem, whereas the entire Babylon line is above grade. So again, you have the 3rd track, and then you come up to this. I think these substations will be replaced, but again, the power infrastructure is horrible. We know they're working on Urban Avenue, and then we'll finally get to Hicksville. Now, I'll show you what they're doing in the meantime. So you have this siding track here. All right, this is actually going to become the 3rd track. I think they're going to replace the tracks over here, though, when they do that, hopefully, because the tracks on this siding are not fit for a revenue service. It's just a place where they park trains. These are the 2 main. So you're going to have the 3rd track. Instead of being on the south side, it's going to be on the north side over here, and there's going to be a switch over here as these tracks kind of merge in together. All right. So we go into Hicksville, and you know how I feel about Hicksville already. Again, we need metal poles. We need metal poles. We need better power infrastructure. The setup that right now we're going to get into this other part where I'm going to have to draw, because I spoke about this in the other video, and I'm going to have to draw this out for you to explain what's going on. But if you look over here, this is the substation here for Hicksville, right here. All right, this is the substation right here that feeds the 3rd rail power for Hicksville. And right now, that is being fed off. All right, so this substation right here, you have a line that goes from the substation here. See that line right there? If you follow that line goes down the tracks, along the tracks over here, and then comes up somewhere. I'm trying to find the spot exactly where it comes up. Right over here, yeah. It comes up right over here, and then follows these power lines here, these sub-transmission lines, down to this substation right here. All right, and this black cable right here, that's the 3rd rail power. I showed you that in another video, but again, this goes up. This is a very bad setup. Look at the tree. Look at the tree in the wire here. This is your 3rd rail power. There's a storm. That wire can come down so easily and cause a service disruption. All right, this is one thing that they're not telling you about, how bad the infrastructure is here on the main line with the power situation is ridiculous. So here you go. This is completely unacceptable. It's fed out of this substation, which is a community substation here. Again, you follow this wire all the way up. Lowell. What's the name of this street here? It's Lowell. It's let's see. It's Gardner Avenue. So this street, you follow this up Gardner Avenue over here. So here are the power line. Again, this is your 3rd rail power. All right, for the Long Island Railroad. This big fat cable on the bottom. All right, the ones on the top, these are 67 kV. And it just goes into a community substation, which is just up the road, up here in Hicksville. I'm not going to follow the whole way on the maps, but there it is right there. There's the substation. And if you take a look you'll see just how vulnerable this setup is. Um, it's a big problem. And again, this substation is fed on sub-transmission lines. That could also fail. All right? That could also fail. These sub-transmission lines are not in good shape. So, let me draw out what's going on. And what I would do, I guess we're going to start with what I would do to fix the power situation at Hicksville, because right now it's unacceptable. All right, I'm going to do my best to draw this out for you. All right, so you see these two red areas here. This red area here is the third rail substation for the Long Island Railroad. So this is LIRR over here. That's where the power is coming into the third rail network at Hicksville. And this is the PSEG up here. GLI 67 kilovolt substation. All right. So what you have going on here is you have a double circuit 67 kilovolt line, one that's feeding from the south, so it's somewhere over here, I guess. So it's one that's feeding from the south from Newbridge, and the other along those old wood poles that's feeding to the west, connected to the substation there in Mineola, or East Mineola on the border of Carl Place. All right, and connecting all of this here is you have this double circuit line going right up Gardner Avenue right here. So it's actually double circuit, goes into the substation, then another line peels off to the north too, out of there. All right, but these are all on old wooden poles, not metal, not reinforced, susceptible to problems. All right, so if this substation for some reason goes down, what's going to happen is your third rail power, which I'll draw in blue right here, your third rail power, which is going on that big fat black cable, which I just showed you, and this black cable also goes to a substation in Newcastle, as well as this substation right here, right by the tracks. All right, so if you have a problem at this substation and on this line, or this line goes down, your service goes down. Your railroad service goes down. It's suspended, and the area is without power. So more or less complete chaos. All right. It needs to be improved, and it needs to be. Would be a joint project between PSEG Long Island and the Long Island Railroad to improve this. But it has to be done. And here's my idea of what needs to be done. So we're going to be drawing and showing you what needs to really be done to fix the main line issue. All right, with the whole power infrastructure, we need dedicated lines like the Babylon branch has. All right, we need a metal line along the tracks, going all the way at least to Mineola. All right, at least to Mineola, and maybe beyond that too. All right. There is a major substation right here, which I don't think has any direct feeders out of it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Right here, it's in between Carl Place and Mineola. All right, and you have several key transmission lines going into that substation. Some of them are fed underground too. Some are overhead, some are underground. They're all coming from the north. All right, these are at least 138 kV. All right, so a lot more power coming through, a much more major substation, and out of that substation, you have the feeders that go from that substation. You'll need a new converter box, 138 kV. Usually the railroad likes to go 34.5 kV. Usually is what they usually feed down to on the Babylon line, you need metal poles, just like the Babylon branch has, metal poles, metal lines, and a real good high tension system for the third rail power in this corridor, which does not exist right now, and is needed. And this current setup in Hicksville needs to be not used anymore. All right, and you can keep it as a backup in case this substation goes down. But this substation won't go down because you have metal towers here along this stretch of track. I'll show you the substation right now. So this substation right here, which is the substation that should be feeding the third rail power, if you go to the end of this street, Voice Road, you'll see the substation I'm talking about. See, you have the metal towers feeding to the substation. There's a real transmission line here, 138 kV, and it's not just fed by this overhead. There's an underground connection that's even higher voltage, I think, to Con Ed. So this substation right here, you should have a feeder from this substation going to the Long Island Railroad third rail power. Right now, I don't believe there is one. And this is a big problem. You need to have that connection. We are fortunate in the middle of the island to have connections to high voltage 138 kV transmission, the transmission system. We should be utilizing that instead of feeding off these 67 kilovolt systems, which are prone to problems. So that's what they need to do, and that's what needs to be done. If we look at the Babylon line, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So we'll go to Belmore. Now remember, they don't have the option of a 138 kV system in Belmore. All right, these are 67 kV lines that are feeding down Newbridge Road from the substation in East Meadow, which is connected up to the 138 kV line. All right, so this line right here. All right, so this is the line that feeds the South Shore. You can see it already looks a lot better. All right, and this goes into the substation right here on Newbridge Road in Belmore. So we go over here. This goes right here, and look, it feeds directly to the Long Island Railroad. These power lines here, up here, this is part of this is for the Long Island Railroad. Part of that is for Rockville Center as well. Some of that power for the village of Rockville Center. All right, and they've been improving this line because there are a couple of wood poles that are getting replaced, and they've been improving it just because the demographics get the priority. All right, but this line here is dedicated Long Island Railroad infrastructure. This is Long Island Railroad high voltage. I think they're 34.5 kV lines that feed for the third rail power on the Babylon branch. And this is what you need on the main line. This is part of the reason why the Babylon branch doesn't have these third rail power problems. And again, it's elevated, so the water runs off. They don't have the track circuit problems. And this line was designed properly. And this is what the mainline modernization third track should have looked like. But it's not going to look like this. What they built this, they had to build temporary tracks around it. But again, I would have taken more land to get it done right. All right, and again, it's all elevated. This is the proper design for a Long Island Railroad station. All right, this is the way the main line should have looked. This was done properly, and I will leave this as a side note here before I go into the Long Island Railroad project page. That it's true. There was once a proposition to do this to the main line a while ago, and the towns along the main line said they didn't want it looking like this. They said it would look like the city. Well, now they're eating their words because we could have had this. We might have had this, and this is the way it should have been done. Metal poles, high tension, elevated tracks, away from the water, away from the problems, up high. All right, that's why the Babylon line doesn't have. It's true, it does get taken care of better, but the infrastructure is better to begin with. So we've arrived at the Long Island Railroad expansion project's home page. All right, and they're talking about first of all, the diagrams that they give are really not great. All right, they're not in detail. This doesn't really explain to you very well. It does explain to you bridge replacements, modifications, and grade crossing eliminations. So it shows you all the work that's being done right now. We're going to look at some of the renderings that they have on this site and my criticisms of it. So let's take a look at this project vision. All right, so here's an issue. Let's go to picture 1 here, for instance. What's the problem with this picture? Let me see if we can make it a little larger. Why are there old poles still at the station? Look, they've just slapped on a new platform. This looks like New Hyde Park, I think. They just slapped on a new platform. The tracks are still at grade level, and you don't even have a canopy here. No canopy. So this is not being done properly. It's being done on the cheap. It's not being done right. And they talk about the things that they're doing, but it's not going to still compare to the Babylon line. Let's take a look at some of the. We'll start with Carl Place. I think we'll start with this one. So this is what the Carl Place will look like in the future here. And again, there isn't a full canopy. It's just a little canopy here. It's half the station. All right. Why don't we get a full canopy? And look at this construction news update here. They're building this new thing here. Here's the picture. There's new bridges going in. They're building new, but why are the old poles still here? Why is that? We know why that is. Again, we know why that is. So we're going to go to some other. Let's look at Floral Park. This station is horrible, Floral Park. It's horrible. So the project will see crews modifying, enhancing, and improving the Floral Park station. I hope that the Floral Park station gets a proper renovation, because it certainly deserves it. So we are going to continue to look at, we're going to look at Mineola Station right now and show you some of the diagrams here that are on the website. So let's see if we can get this larger here. Alright, so you can see what, this doesn't really show you much. See, they don't really make it easy to find, like, the diagrams, like the track diagrams and stuff. They don't make it easy to find that stuff. There's Nassau 1 interlocking. Alright, so this is one of the issues I want to talk about here. Let's see if we can get this in. If I have to, I'll draw a map because I can't seem to find it on the site. Let's make this larger and let's see. Alright, so they're going to be putting a new switch in over here, I believe. I think they're going to be putting a new switch in over here. Yeah, install track, pre-wired, positive, interlocking installation. So they're going to be installing a new interlocking right over here, which is west of the Herrick's Road grade crossing. And what's going to happen at this interlocking, basically, you're going to have 3 tracks, and Oyster Bay trains are only going to be allowed to use 1 or 2. They're not going to be allowed to use the south track. All right, so they're not going to be allowed to use the south track. So the problem with this issue is, if we can find it on the website, I'll show you the issue that I have. And I've actually brought this up to them, but they want to keep doing that. So let's see if we can. See if they even have Mineola. They only have Mineola Station. They don't really talk about the Mineola, the actual track layout on this. This is what we're looking at before. They don't actually talk about the track layout, but I'll point it out to you here. So what they're going to do is the Oyster Bay trains will only stop on the north platform, even eastbound trains, because the switch from the south track, the new track that they're putting in, will not connect up with the switch that'll take the Oyster Bay train to the Oyster Bay line. And only the middle and the north track will switch over to the Oyster Bay line. Very bad design, because now Oyster Bay trains, when they cross over, are going to be taking up this whole track here, the north side track. And this basically limits them from improving Oyster Bay train service and using East Williston as a terminus for service. Because it would tie up the entire main line for the train to cross over. At least from any reverse peak service will have to be halted to allow the Oyster Bay train to cross over, which already happens. But the Oyster Bay train would only be crossing up. Right now, it only takes up this area here when it's got to cross over. But now you'll have between here and the new Herrick's Road interlocking, because that's where the Oyster Bay trains are going to have to switch at that interlocking, not this one, which is dumb. It's stupid. Why do they do it like that? You know, they say it won't be an issue. I know it's going to be an issue. All right, to simplify this, we're going to do some drawing. All right, just to simplify it. All right, on the top, I'll show you the existing configuration at Mineola, and then I'll show you the new. Hang on a minute. I know what I can do to make that look a lot straighter. I think there's a line tool we can use. So we'll do the existing. All right, this is the existing configuration, and then the new configuration. with the 3 tracks, alright? To show you how they're screwing this up. Alright? Because this is probably the most thing of this project. This is the biggest thing I'm critical of. Alright? Now currently on the top is the current. Alright? Currently the Oyster Bay tracks branch off east of Mineola. So let me draw Mineola in here. We'll just write Mineola here. Probably won't look very neat, but we'll try. Alright, so this is Mineola Station right here. I'll just put Mineola. Alright, trying to write with the thing. Alright, so this is Mineola Station. Alright, we'll draw Mineola here as well. Alright, so this is Mineola Station, and this will be the Herrick's. This will be with the new Herrick's switches. Alright, this will be where the new Herrick's switches. Alright, so currently we'll draw the Oyster Bay branch tracks in green, or light green. Really, this color is good. So currently the Oyster Bay tracks east of Mineola, they can switch. There's a switch right here. Alright, so there's a switch right here. They go off to the north. Alright, they can switch from either track. Alright, so generally the westbounds will come in here into Mineola, stop on the north platform. Alright, which I'll draw here. I'll draw the platform too. Alright, they'll just stop on the north. They'll stop on the north platform right here. Alright. Alright, this is the south platform. And then the south platform, the eastbound Oyster Bay trains will come and they'll switch and they'll go this way. Alright? Alright, so because of that, I guess I should have drawn those lines a little longer. Just draw them out a little more. Alright. Because of that, when the Oyster Bay train has to cross over and you have a reverse peak train coming from this way, alright, it'll only have to stop for a very brief amount of time to let that Oyster Bay train pass, either going into Mineola or out of Mineola. Alright? And it's a very brief amount of time, and again, it makes sense. It'll stop on the southbound platform, so Oyster Bay train eastbound will stop on the south platform. Oops. And westbound stop on the north platform. Makes sense, right? Well, this is what they're going to do now. So instead of having this set up with the 3 tracks, the Oyster Bay train's only going to connect up with these tracks. Yes, it's only going to connect up with these tracks. And Mineola, the platforms at Mineola, which we'll draw again, we're still going to have side platforms. We're not going to get island platforms, which is, again, a big criticism I have. I know island platforms make it more complicated, but, again, better do it right. So now what's going to happen is, well, what's going to happen now to the eastbound Oyster Bay trains? Well, they're going to be switching at Herrick's now. So in eastbound Oyster Bay, I'm not sure exactly how these track switches are going to look here at Herrick's, maybe like that. The eastbound Oyster Bay trains that are going to be coming in, I don't know if they're going to be using the middle track. They might be using the middle track, or they might be using this track. I'm not sure. But they're going to have to come in. If they use the middle track, and they can't, I don't know if they're going to be able to switch. Some one of my viewers can tell me. All right, I don't know. I think they can switch over here. So yeah, they'll have to switch over here. So basically, the Oyster Bay trains are going to have to switch over here like this, go across the middle track. If they're not coming, they're probably going to be on the middle track. All right, and then they're going to have to cross over here to this track here onto the north track, and there'll only be one platform. That's the north platform for Oyster Bay service. That's it. So what's going to happen here is your westbound Oyster Bay train is going to come in here, stop on the north platform, but your eastbound Oyster Bay trains will also stop on the north platform, go past here, and go over here. So now this westbound track here, for your reverse peak service, they tout this project as, oh, we're going to improve reverse peak service because of it. Well, now in the reverse peak in the evening, these trains will have to be stopped for much longer. It'll take at least maybe 2 or 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes for that Oyster Bay train to pass. So they'll be sitting there waiting for 2 to 3 minutes. What a disaster this is. What a disaster. What a mess this is. All right, and this is the biggest problem I have with this project. And this is why I'm concerned, even after this is done. The main line is still going to stink. All right? It's still going to stink. All right? I've brought this up to them. They don't make a big deal out of it. But what this does is this limits the amount of oyster bay service. So, for instance, if you want to turn trains at East Williston, it's going to cause a big problem. All right? I want East Williston locals. This is one of the things I would do, is have more service at East Williston. But you can't do that with this setup. It's stupid. They should just have the switch over here, east of the station, like they have currently. That's what they should do, but they're not doing that. So it's really messed up. It's going to mess up everything. And again, because there's no island platforms, there won't be a platform at Mineola for the middle track. So if for some reason a train has to use the middle track, it's going to skip Mineola, screwing people in Mineola if there's a problem with the train on one of these other tracks. And again, what you should have had in Mineola was an elevated. What it should have been is this. This is what you should have had at Mineola. I'm going to draw the tracks again through Mineola and show you what they should have done. All right, but they're not doing. All right, so we're going to draw the 3 tracks like this. 1, 2, 3. All right, and you should have had island platforms. All right. It should have been island platforms. It should have been elevated. Yes, it would be more complicated, but it would be done right. It would be done right in the meantime. So you have the island platforms here, all right. So that way, all 3 tracks can service Mineola. So you have your island platforms here, and two in the middle like this, all right. Island platforms is the way to go. That's what they do in the Babylon branch, and it works great. And it should have been used at Mineola. Yes, you're going to have to redesign the overpasses, the elevator stuff, but you got to do it right. Just because it's challenging doesn't mean you just run away from it and say, we're just going to take the easy way out. And that's what the railroad's doing with this 3rd track project. So, we're at a modern a modern LI project. There's Cuomo again, touting his, just bragging. You can see there he is with all his friends. Don't they all look like a certain demographic to you? Yeah, I think so. But, This isn't going to be enough. Improving infrastructure. All right, improving infrastructure, but you got to do it right. Let's take a look at the projects that have been going on here. We're going to actually try to get a list of the projects. I know Kevin did an excellent video about this. He did feature this in his transit news update. So Again, you gotta subscribe to his channel because he does this full time. This is really not something I want to focus on as much anymore. All right. Again, you look at how beautiful Belmont looks. We've already seen how beautiful it looks. I don't have to show you. All right. And they're replacing the substation at Belmont. There's nothing wrong with it, but again, because they've got to have the best of everything, so they're going to get that too. We'll look at Carl Place. We'll start with Carl Place because I'm going to look at the main line stations here, what they're going to look like when they're done. All right, so let's see if we can get to the project gallery. All right, this is some of the pictures of them working, and I want to show you the renderings of what it's going to look like when they're done. So, no, that's not a rendering. All right, that's still a picture. You see, look, why are the old poles still here? Why haven't they been replaced yet? Where's PSCG Long Island? I think these are just pictures of, yeah, these aren't renderings. These are just pictures of yeah, these aren't renderings. These are just pictures of all right, so it's an ongoing thing there. You've seen what that looks like. You've seen what the stations look like. Let's see if we can get some more information here. And I'm sorry, my computer is very slow. I really do. So they are replacing the Hicksville substation. All right, you see here, they're replacing the substation, which is good, but what about the power feeding into it? All right, so the substation is 40 years old. It needs to be replaced. Yes, it does, but where are the power lines going to come into it? There's no mention of that. They're still going to use the same old power lines, probably. They're not going to use metal power lines. We're not going to get the metal power lines that the Babylon branch has, and that's going to continue the problems. So let's look a little more. And again, I do apologize for my computer. It's very slow. Maybe I will open it in another window. Maybe. All right, so we already have that third track project. Let's see if we can Lynbrook, which look at what it's going to look like when they're done with it. Let's see if they have a picture of what it's going to look like when it's done with it. There it is at the top. So there you go. Look at how it's got to be the best for them because again, and the station does need work. It does need work, but I don't think it needs to be a complete renovation. But it does need some work. It needs some enhancement. I'll put it that. They call it enhancement, but they're getting a whole new station. All right, they're getting a whole new station. So that's the South Shore. We're really focused on the main line. So Meadowbrook Substation. I'm not sure where that is. Let's see where that is. Meadowbrook Substation. Babylon Branch again. Sure. Why did their substations need to be replaced when they're fine already? Because they got to have the best of everything. All right, so the Maryland Avenue substation will be replaced. Yes, our substations have to be replaced because of the third track, and I'm glad they're getting upgraded. But what about the power lines that feed them? They're not going to get upgraded. We're going to be stuck with the same wooden power lines and the same problems. Let's look at Mineola. So this is a little look at what Mineola Station will look like. Right here. Yeah, that girl's something. All right. That's enough. Again, I don't see many seats here. There is some brickwork. Still, it should be an island platform. This is not going to be good enough. It is not going to be good enough. No. And again, no island platform, no axe. It will be better. It will be better than what we have right now. It's just like with Hicksville. It will be better than what we have. But it won't. It will still fall short of what the Babylon branch has. And that's, I think, the message here of the whole third track project. It's going to be an improvement, but it's still not going to be up to the standard that you have on the Babylon line. All right? That's the issue. So they are replacing these substations, but no mention of the power lines getting replaced. No mention of that. No mention of that. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but like I said, all right, here's one of the grade crossing eliminations. Let's talk about that. So they're going to be replacing all these substations, and they need to be replaced, and that's very good that they are being replaced. And so they're going to be, they're just showing the same. Like I said, the information that they provide on the site is not enough. They should have diagrams available. They should have a lot of pictures of what it's going to look like, not just this little thing here. So I have my criticisms of this project. I support it, but I don't think it's enough, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll just wrap up this video with the Long Island Railroad map. And, like I said, this project is going to be a good project. It's going to improve things, but it's not going to get things up to the standard that the Babylon branch has. It's not. I mean, it's an improvement. I'll take any improvement we can get. But it's not going to bring things up to the standard because you're still going to have the shortcomings that we've talked about, all right? Whereas the Babylon branch just gets the best infrastructure down here. They get the best infrastructure. This line here from Babylon all the way out. This area just gets the best infrastructure, all right? It was done right. Actually, I don't want to draw that line there. Oh, I think it's too late. All right. This area was just done right, all right? And all the because again, a certain demographic lives in a lot of these areas, and they continue to get preferential treatment because of that, And again, they took the easy way out by not doing it right. It's true. It will be better without the grade crossings. We'll have nicer stations. We'll have better infrastructure, hopefully less switch problems. But as I talked about it, it's not going to be up to the standard that the Babylon line has. It's still going to have its flaws, whereas the Babylon line is almost flawless. All right? And yet, we know in the future it makes no sense that this isn't done right, because the hard infrastructure should be in the middle of the island. It should be in the middle of the island, because it is the middle of the island here that is going to be the safest as we deal with worsening natural disasters. As I said, the South Shore, sea level rise, and hurricanes, this is going to be underwater, all right? North Shore has a lot of old trees that are going to come down, all right? So you have a lot of old trees that are going to come down and cause problems on the North Shore. The middle of the island is the best layout, and it should be it makes no sense what we're doing here. It really makes no sense. And I know, it's too late. The project has started. We're not going to change it. I'm just giving you my thoughts on what I think of it. Um, and I think there's going to be some shortcomings. And I think we're going to have to expect that kind of thing. And the Babylon branch will continue to enjoy great service until the ocean comes. The line is elevated, but the towns along it aren't, and they're going to flood. That water is going to come right in, and right up to Sunrise Highway in Nassau County. A lot of, a hurricane, any Cat 2 or Cat 3, that water is going to come close to Sunrise. All right, and wipe out a lot of those places. And it's a shame because they're beautiful places. And the substations along the Babylon branch, there are actually no plans to elevate them, which I'm kind of surprised about, because that's one part where the Babylon branch is vulnerable. They have elevated them on the Long Beach line, but they should do so on the Babylon line. And the Babylon Yard, that's also a low-lying area that could flood too. But again, they just want to think about the South Shore. But here's the thing: just pretend there is no South Shore. Because this is what it's going to look like. What is Long Island going to look like in the future? Let's pretend there is no South Shore. Let's just fill the ocean in here, all right? Because this is all going to be underwater, all right? All of this is going to be underwater. Could be as little as 10 to 15 years, because we keep underestimating how fast the climate's changing, all right? Then you're left with the rest. We got to take care of the rest of the island. Enough of this favoritism already. And like I said, this is going to be, I don't want to talk about this. This is my last video on it. I promised some viewers I was going to do a video on the infrastructure, so I said, all right, I'm going to do it. Because I already said I was going to do it. But, it is related to climate change, folks. So keep that in mind. We've got to take care of the infrastructure. And I know some of the bigger things with the elevation may be a little complicated for the main line. But at the very least, we got to fix the power. We need metal poles. PSCG Long Island, you need to do what you're supposed to do and give us the metal poles. Give us the proper infrastructure so the power stays on. Because you know what? Water and electricity don't mix. And you can have all the new power lines on the South Shore you have. It's not going to matter if your home is flooded. You're not going to be able to receive power. It's not going to be safe. So that concludes this video. I want to thank you for watching. Take care.